Imagine you could step inside the minds of Canada's healthcare leaders, glimpse their greatest fears, strongest drivers, and what makes them tick. Welcome to Healthcare Changemakers, a podcast where we talk to leaders about the joys and challenges of driving change and working with partners to create the safest healthcare system.
Hey listeners, it's Philip here from HIROC. Thank you for listening. And we've made it to our final episode of the year. On today's show, we got HIROC CEO Catherine Gaulton for her annual year-end message. But before we get there, we do want to thank you for a few things. Thank you for meeting us and seeing us in person at a variety of events throughout the year. We were at over 40 events, either through the HIROC pop-ups that you'll see at partner events, or our own events like cyber forums and regional symposiums. We also thank you for subscribing and reading our newsletter, the HIROC Insider, where you get your monthly dose of all things claims, risk and safety, insurance, and of course, this podcast too. And finally, I must thank the people who put the show together, my team, my fellow co-hosts, Michelle, Mark, and Abby, and of course, team members behind the scenes, Alicia and Jill. And so, without further ado, let's get to today's episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Healthcare Changemakers. As it's the end of the year, we have our traditional end-of-year sit-down with HIROC CEO Catherine Gaulton. Welcome, Catherine.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. Well, let's get right into it. So, Catherine, how was the year for HIROC?
A fantastic year for HIROC. We've accomplished so much. We check to see how we're doing in relation to our strategic priorities, which, as you know, are really about addressing those things with our subscribers that are a concern for them and that we're seeing in claims in relation to areas where there are patient safety risks. So lots of work there, lots of work around ensuring that we're staying focused on service, and that's such a dominant feature for HIROC and its staff. And so that's been really great and really moving the mark on that. Launched HIROC Intelligence this year as one example, where subscribers can now go in and see their own data, do some comparisons without needing HIROC to be involved. And that self-sufficiency in our subscribers is huge, and huge for them. And for our staff, we have been working a lot around engagement. It's difficult when you're not together all the time to ensure that you stay as connected as if you were. And so we're really focusing on that as a major part. So realizing that service to each other is crucial to how we serve subscribers. But a fantastic year. Financially, things have been great. We've been able to give money back as surplus distribution to our subscribers, and that's always a great time knowing the stressors that are in the system financially right now. So it's been a great year.
No, absolutely. I know there's many more because you and I talk quite a bit, so we got to talk about them all. So I'm happy you highlighted a few.
Right, 55. In 1 minute there could be, but I'm going to stop there just in the interest of time.
Yes, and viewers, listeners, I told Catherine to keep it short too. So
Yeah.
she has a longer list. I can tell you that much. So I know you're a lifelong learner. So why don't you share something new you've personally learned this year? It could be something you learned from about the healthcare system. It could be something you learned from a subscriber, about something about safety and risk in general, or even something personally that you took away from a meeting or conference or forum, because you go to many of those too.
For sure. I think, big learnings for me this year have been in relation to AI and really kind of wrapping my brain around that. I think, it's interesting when you visit the U.S., there's a big undertone of how you might need to prevent the use of AI. And in Canada, I think we have those conversations as well. And it just seems to me to be such a huge balancing act around ensuring that you're cautious where you need to be, given what we know about how the data might be collected around how it may not be yet at the place where it's reflecting the populations that we all serve. So keeping those things in mind, but realizing that to not act on the things that we were able to do to improve healthcare, to improve the use of our professionals' time uh, that could be assisted by AI is big balancing act, but really really great learnings. It's one of, again, at least 55 things that I could speak about in a minute, because we are constantly learning, and that's beautiful. Our subscribers teach me something every day. So I say 55, but if I work 250 or more days a year, it's actually more like that. Not a day goes by that I don't learn something from our subscribers.
Oh, absolutely. And what's one or two, give you bonus, that things that brought you joy or a smile to your face this year?
Well, I think I always start with my family because they do. They bring me huge joys. Our sons, my husband, uh, watching them grow, watching them navigate the world, look very adult. While I still think of them as my children, has brought me great joy. But I think, aside from that, watching our staff come together to think about how we ensure that HIROC is still meeting the needs of our subscribers is brings me joy every time. And it was interesting. We were doing a T-shirt design piece at our staff cafe, and without exception, there was a theme of subscribers, or where we sit in the system and what that means for our subscribers. So that was just huge. And I'll say big joy for me is going across this country and seeing the passion. And I know I say this every year, and yet maybe in some ways I'm still amazed every year that people who work in our system, despite its stressors, have such passion for what they do and such passion for doing what helps those we all serve. So sorry, and now I'm on to three things that are my favorite things. There are many more, but that piece between family and our people at HIROC and what they're doing and what our subscribers are doing. It's just there's always so much. It's interesting. My father, who's has made me laugh more this year than perhaps in previous years. He's really brought additional humor into my life as he ages too. So anyway, I'll stop there.
No, those are all good, and I'm happy you brought up the one with staff, because it's true. We had, as Catherine mentioned, you can check out the post on our LinkedIn page. We did a competition at our staff cafe, and it was an early morning, so we were like, be creative. But then once they got rolling in their groups to create T-shirts, and with mainly T-shirts for staff, every T-shirt that they designed has encompassed subscribers and how we serve subscribers, and that was so. Yeah, I'm happy you brought that up. That was a very good example of joy.
Yeah, for sure.
And what are the top three things you heard from subscribers this year? Maybe things that are keeping them up at night, or trends, or
Yeah.
success stories.
So I think lots of success stories. It's amazing to me how creative and I don't know what's but talented people who work in this system are. And so I think about where HIROC, offers fairly small amounts of money through its foundation in order to incent activities that our subscribers want to, that are all about quality and safety. But when you listen to what subscribers are able to do with $20,000 or less, it's absolutely amazing to me. Whether that's sort of how we're making sure that the temperature that newborns' temperatures are kept constant, or how we've used the implementation of oxytocin protocols and actually used it as a then driver across the whole system. How, in the midst of absolute system change, like in Newfoundland or Saskatchewan or Alberta, you are still seeing, there's this kind of predominant underpinning of change, and yet the things that are important stay very, very true for subscribers in all of those jurisdictions. Looking at the innovations in Ontario, I'm amazed by the extent to which our organizations are coming together to really promote wonderful things, whether that's alternate places for our homeless populations who might otherwise have been in emergency departments, or the coming together of long-term care with very acute organizations. Looking at what is starting to come out of the integration of care in Ontario, because it's the one jurisdiction, of course, that hasn't done structural integration, at least not in the same way, and just yet seeing the brains work around and the passion work around how that makes sense. It's just been wonderful.
No, absolutely, and I think all the examples in this, of course, there's many more, all encompass how many people out there would think, oh, how does my insurer play into this? But it's so amazing to see how the HIROC team, including you, because you lead us and you drive our strategy, how we can then tap into what all the subscribers are teaching us or teaching each other, and then share that valuable knowledge. So what's happening in St. John's can happen in Winnipeg, or what's happening in Regina can happen here in Ontario. So that's just the one thing that I admire about you, leading us to think that way of how like you said at the best, the expertise of our subscribers and the reciprocal model is truly magical, that it's sharing this knowledge.
Yeah, it's interesting. You and I and Trevor, we were just at the Western Health Leaders Conference, and Andre Picard gave a talk, and he's always so insightful, or inspires you to be insightful. But he's thinking about models external to Canada that he was describing as examples. And the interesting thing is that there is not one example there that actually isn't replicated in Canada, in the various corners of this country, and implemented well before they were implemented elsewhere. His point, and I think it's really well taken, is how do we learn from each other so that these are not pockets of things that are innovative and really spread. And as you know, HIROC's sort of in the midst of that. So we have the beauty of seeing everything that's happening in so many parts of the country and supporting it, because these look innovative enough that you may think insurance won't cover it. And of course, the things that our subscribers talk about are always so well thought through that the question of coverage is really, I've not seen where it's an issue, because it's so well considered. But that excellence is happening in this country. And so the extent to which HIROC is part of that spread is something that we should really be proud of, I think.
Absolutely. And speaking of being proud of, I'm looking forward to, what's something you're looking forward to next year in 2025?
Well, it's interesting. We've been trialing going to different parts of the country. So historically, HIROC had its AGM that was in Ontario. Subscribers might be able to come to Ontario, they might not. And over recent years, we've really also tried to leverage, and we learned this through COVID, we were able to do podcasts across the country, or virtual conferences across the country, to now do an Atlantic conference and to also do a Western conference. And those work really, really well. But one of the things that's been insightful for me is the extent to which we could just camp on to what our subscribers are doing anyway. So their quality days. This year, Mackenzie Health, the Ottawa hospitals, some work in Newfoundland, some work in Alberta, where we could actually become part of what our subscribers intend to do anyway. versus coming and having a special session. We'll still continue to do that, but really to talk about how we can contribute to what they're thinking of doing anyway in forums that they're thinking about. I'm really excited about that. I'm really excited about the fact that we're going to be finalizing our strategic plan for 2026 and forward with phenomenal input from subscribers, phenomenal input from our staff, and just amazing and insightful guidance from our board. We're just extremely lucky on that front. So I'm really excited about what that will hold, and I'm really excited about the last year of the current plan. There are some real things there that are meant to move the mark, not for us, but for our subscribers. And I think that's what's important for our staff, so that they move the mark for our subscribers. Absolutely.
And you hear from Catherine first, subscribers, if there's something that you're hosting next year, 2025, where HIROC can be a partner or a subject matter experts, like Catherine said, please do reach out to her directly. You can reach out to me in communications@hiroc.com. We'd be more than delighted to hear about it, or even hear success stories from it, so we can share those stories across the Reciprocal. And so enough about work. Let's talk about, you adopted a new puppy. So how's that been going?
Oh my gosh. I don't know. It's either that I've gotten older since the last time I had a puppy, and that my memory is entirely absent from when I last did that about 15 years ago. But this guy is giving us a run for our money. He's so joyful, and so joyful that it makes him a very tiring pet to have right now, but a lovely, lovely dog, and he enriches our lives absolutely, while running zoomies in the backyard. Or my brother visited this weekend, and he pestered him for the entirety of his visit in order to play with him. So that's been a lot of fun.
He's definitely very active. I can confirm.
Many subscribers have seen him insert himself into the screen if I'm working from home in a day. So he's and it usually stops the conversation, because people enjoy talking about their pets, obviously, and seeing pets.
100%. And are you consuming things, meaning reading or watching anything interesting as of late?
So much that it's really great. I just joined a new book club, and we read, and this is an interesting read. It's the shortest read I've ever done, aside from short stories, but called Small Things Like These, which is it's a very, very interesting path to reflection that doesn't seem as if that's what it's going to be about in the first instance. And so this sort of gradually being taken through someone else's thinking in order to be reflective ourselves, really amazing. I've been reading and finished reading True Reconciliation by Jody Wilson-Raybould, and it's one of the most amazing books I've read. Extremely great reason for reflection. But interestingly, she took actual excerpts from written communications, either laws or communications between Indigenous people and government, or whoever might be the rulers, including major corps at the time. So these are the actual documents, and they're interspersed in this book. Interestingly, the color of the pages is different, so that you can pull them out of the front of the book when you're looking at it. And just phenomenal. And I think we just heard at the Western Health Leaders Conference from Jared Swidrovich, who did the same thing in a way. Starts his conversation about reconciliation, or reconciliation, as he called it, which I really love, through a citation of the facts in a way. And it's an amazing way to get to a reflection. So love that.
It's kind of fitting that that we're closing off with reflections, because before I pass it off to you for your last final thought, I just wanted to add also that we often ask our guests, to reflect back on advice they received from a mentor, etc. And so I thought I'd switch it around and tell you. I'm sure you already know, but I'm just telling you. I think it's important to tell people in the moment how your advice to me about reflection, helps drive my team, reflecting on successes, and yeah, sometimes even some misses, but it's allowed us to be that much more open and vulnerable and strive for that success. And I think because of that, it's made me, I'd say, hopefully, a better leader. But having that time to reflect on all these things just drives that open and candid and amazing culture that we have here. And so I'm grateful for you for allowing us those opportunities to think that way.
You're a marvelous leader, so I think you would have gotten there anyhow. But I think to the extent that I've contributed at all, I'm thankful for that. I think it's the ultimately, look, I'll admit that my reflection is not always as immediate as I'd like it to be, but that thinking through what an experience or what an issue means to someone else has been profoundly important in my life. And frankly, I remember going into a meeting, and I think I may have told you this story before, of speaking to a group. And you have 15 minutes and you're leaving the meeting, and I, for some reason, said, does that make sense for you? And having one person, lonely person in the corner of the table say, I think it makes all kinds of sense. I just don't know how I'm going to implement it. And that reflection of that. So most conversations, as I'm ending them now, try and say, does it work for you? And look, I'll say the answer is no, on enough occasions that it makes it very important to ask. But I think the more we're trying to consider what the experience, what the issue means for someone else, and who else might be a valuable brain to bring into the conversation, it's always going to be the way to leadership, the way to success, frankly.
No, I'm happy you brought that story up, because that's exactly what my takeaway for listeners at the end of this year is, to do exactly what you've taught me, is to, in the moment, share that moment of gratitude where and if you can, but also if something may not be sitting right, and feel free to share just that, and it's totally fine. And I think you've allowed that safe space to do so. And so with that, I will let you give our final thought of our episode, final thought of the year. What do you have to say?
I'm extremely thankful. Really, I have, for my family, for even that puppy, for the people that I get to work with, and for the leaders and persons who are at the front line of care in healthcare in this country. I just find people to be generous with their time, generous with sharing their wisdom, and passionate about the people that they serve. All of us serve. And I just don't think you get that. I think we have people join HIROC in order to get that, for our small part of that. And yet I think if you're in the system, sometimes it's really difficult to see it. But to step back and look at that, and to think of what a phenomenal group of people in this country who are in this business and are doing the very best they can, and frankly succeeding the overwhelming majority of the time, despite the fact that we as a group focus on where things didn't go marvelously well. The fact is that the overwhelming majority of the time, we're delivering exactly what people in this country need. So I'm thankful for that, and so happy holidays, and have a great 2025. It's going to be a good one.
Absolutely. All the best to you, David, Ben, Thomas, and of course, little Parker.
And Ben, who inserted himself in the conversation last year. I'm glad you didn't surprise me this year. So.
No, I'm going to keep you on your toes for another surprise, but don't worry. All the best, Catherine. Thank you for chatting with us.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening. You can hear more episodes of Healthcare Changemakers on our website, HIROC.com, and on your favorite podcasting apps. If you like what you hear, please rate us or post a review. Healthcare Changemakers is recorded by HIROC's Communications and Marketing team and produced by Podfly Productions. Follow us on Twitter at HIROC Group or email us at communications@hiroc.com. We'd love to hear from you.